Welcome back to the channel, everybody. First of all, I have to apologize. I have not been very good about making videos lately, and I am sorry about that. However, I have been watching a lot of Crawler Canyon lately, and I've been really enjoying his content. And one of the things he says a lot in his video is you should only change one thing at a time. If you're truly trying to understand the significance that upgrades and changes and modifications can have, just change one thing at a time. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I've kind of had this guy in the back of my mind for a little while. I have not driven this SCX24 since my trip to New Hampshire in like September of last year, and I kind of miss it. And I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with it. I had a couple ideas, but nothing that really called out to me until finally I just decided to pull the trigger and turn this into an LCG Comp style crawler. I love watching videos of little SCX24s in like an LCG setup, fully decked out, hitting some pretty gnarly lines. And I thought, you know what, why not? This guy's just sitting here, let's just go for it. So in the spirit of Crawler Canyon, I've decided that each video I'm going to change more or less one thing. And in this video, we are giving him an LCG style carbon fiber chassis. Before we make any changes, let's get it out on the rocks, get that baseline drive, and see how a mostly stock SCX24 Gladiator handles the rocks. So without further ado, let's jump to that footage. Yeah, so to start off, we're going to take it pretty easy. It has been a while since I've driven this, and honestly, I don't really remember how capable this thing is in stock form. Alright, up and over, no problem. Since that part was so easy, we're going to try same obstacle, just we're going to move over a little bit steeper right in here. And yeah, so now we're seeing a little bit of struggle here. The longer wheelbase of the Gladiator, I think, will help in situations like this, but obviously the tires just don't have the traction that we're looking for at this point. Bump it. Yeah, even that. So, alright. Yeah, a little bit of wheel speed. Let's try that again. Gracefully. Clearly, the trick with obstacles like this is just wheel speed. Alright, yeah, second time's not a problem at all. So now we're just going to try coming down kind of through here. And there's a pretty sizable gap right by the front tires, so not an issue there. This is, I think, yeah, that's pretty much what I expected. This is where we're really going to see how the Gladiator really struggles in stock form, is there's just no weight down low, and so when you kind of get these downhill off camber situations, yeah, it just really struggles. Let's see if we can go up at all. This is going to be a pretty tough climb, I think, for in stock form. I just don't see... Yeah, I just don't see how it's going to do it. Let's see if we can try and get this tire up. Nope, okay. Well, maybe we can come up right here. We're going to have to... So the driver's side rear tire is pretty sizable hole right now. Let's see if we can get out of it with the ample supply of wheel speed, clearly. It's just not going. Okay, let's see if we can crawl out of here. This is a pretty tough obstacle, I think. Now we're going to see how well we can do this descent. And again, starting off, we have this little crack. We'll see if we can get over and maintain composure. Back end's feeling a little bit light, but no good. All right, let's try that again. Hopefully without taking out the camera this time. It actually fared pretty well over the crack right here. I was expecting that rear end to just kind of come swinging up, but it actually nope. I think I spoke a little too soon there. So for attempt number 3, we're just gonna we're gonna forego this little crack And we're just gonna come straight down and see how the descent works. And honestly feeling pretty controlled, pretty planted. Yeah, no concerns there, nice and easy. But I'm curious if we, at the top, swing a left and try going up this crack. Yeah, no problem. Okay, now the real test. If we do an off-camber turn to the left, I can tell. Yep, down and out. So this next obstacle, I think we're gonna try coming up, hooking a right-hand turn, and then try coming up through here. So, truck in position, and let's see how well it does. Again, this first part, I'm not expecting too many problems. We do not have the turning radius for that sharp of a turn. But if we come up here, this is what I'm more interested in. And once again, we just do not have low enough weight to be able to really handle that off-camber situation. Now, obviously, I didn't set up any cones. I don't have any pre-planned paths. I'm just kind of trying what looks fun. Oh, I thought I had it there for a second. Yeah, I'm just walking around and whatever looks fun, I'm trying, but I didn't come here with any sort of planned path in mind. And I'm trying to give everything 3 attempts, you know, really see how well it works. All right, so it gets to about this point and then it starts sliding. Let's see if we can bump it. Oh boy, this is where we lost it last time. Okay, bump it, and no good. At least it keeps landing on the wheels, that's helpful. Picked up a little too far. Okay, one last attempt. So one common theme we're really seeing is these tires just don't have the grip I'm looking for, and I think because they, I believe these are vented, but there's no foams in them. They're just so bouncy that as soon as they start spinning, the whole thing, as you've seen, just kind of starts bouncing, and it doesn't feel controlled at all. Of course, the shocks aren't helping. They're just pogo sticks, basically. I think we have a pretty good baseline. Obviously, the tires are going to be a huge improvement. We're just doing the chassis now. I'm hoping with the stainless steel links, though, it does add a little bit weight lower down to help with that center of gravity. So we are going to take it back to the workshop and go ahead and install the chassis, install the links, the better steering, and come back here and try it again. You can tell not. There were a couple of lines that really impressed me, and there were other lines that did not impress me at all. Let's just say that. However, like I mentioned, this is a mostly stock SCX24. There are a couple of things I've done to it. I've moved some of the electronics around. There's a light kit installed. It has some sliders. I also removed the rear cargo rack thing just to give it as good a chance as possible out on the rock. So now that we have that done, let's get into the new chassis and links, and then we'll take it back out to the same spot and see if there's any real difference. So this is what I've picked up, and no, this video is not sponsored by Injora, although I realize that we're going all in on Injora parts today. First, I picked up this Gladiator specific LCG SCX24 carbon fiber chassis. We also picked up a set of the stainless steel steering links. The stock steering setup, there is so much play, it drives me insane. I also picked up Injora's bent stainless steel high clearance links to throw those on. Let's go ahead and get these installed. Side note, I hate the Velcro on these things. That is absolutely gonna go in the final build. And this is what I was saying earlier about the slop and the steering links. I just think that's really unacceptable, you know? To start, we are going to remove the body, just because I find it very frustrating to try and work on these things while the body's just on the back flopping around. So we're gonna remove those 2 screws, and now of course we'll have to unplug the light kit. So now that the body's off, we'll just put that off to the side for now, and we're left with the chassis. So we'll also grab the nut driver, we'll pull the wheels and tires off. So I do have a little Cow RC magnetic mat, and for the life of me, I do not know where it is. So we are just going to stick all the screws off to the side and hope that I remember which ones go where. We have a few zip ties on here. I have to remind myself to be very careful when I cut zip ties because I have cut cables in the past because I wasn't paying close enough attention. So with that, this is a My Trick RC light kit. There is a video, just link it up here in the corner. Okay, so we now have the shocks fully removed. Took a few minutes. Now we'll just switch over to removing the transmission and skid plate. By the time I'm done with this, I don't suspect that there will be very much stock on this truck, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm trying to undo as little as possible, and I think if we just flex the rails. So there's the stock chassis. Speed control still attached, so obviously we'll have to pull that off. Everything else that's on here, like I said, the battery mount, the speed control mount, the body mount, the shock towers, all that, I believe all that can stay. The next thing we'll be doing is removing all of the links, since we're not going to need those. So we'll go ahead and unscrew all of that. So if you're going to do this yourself, I would say do not follow my example. I would say do a much better job keeping your screws separate and making sure that you know where each one goes. I have never been very good at that, and as a result I use whatever screw I have on hand, which is not always a good thing. Both axles are separated from their links, so we'll go ahead and put those down and we'll start digging into the link kit. I have my little X-Acto blade. As I was looking around for parts for these, I was kind of surprised just how expensive stuff is for the SCX24. Am I the only one? Am I crazy? Again, this is where I wish I had my magnetic mat, but it's okay. So in the kit, we receive all of the links. If you are doing a Gladiator, you do want to make sure that you buy the longer length links. That's fun to say, longer length link for the kit. Otherwise, you end up with a much shorter wheelbase. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take all these little itty bitty rod ends, and I guess we're just gonna screw them onto the links. I've been thinking about what my favorite tool in my workshop is, and I don't know if I have an answer yet, but let me tell you, this thing, I call it the Nutcracker. This is just like a shock building tool or something, and it has these these little holes in it so you can grab stuff. This thing is incredibly handy, and I just bought a cheap one off Amazon. I think this was 10 bucks, and it has completely changed how I build links and how I build shocks, because it's so nice to be able to just, grab the tool, grab onto a round rod like a link, and just be able to hold on to it without worrying about marring it or scratching it or having to use a regular pair of pliers. Also, to be able to pop the balls in and out of the rod ends is super helpful. All right, they're done. It took about 10 minutes overall. Initial impressions, I'm pretty impressed with them. They do come with metal ball inserts for the rod ends. I believe they're brass. They move smoothly. There's very little play in them. You do get one extra rod end, so let's hope I don't break any. So they do include this tiny little brass insert for the upper front link. So the front axle uses this Y link, but obviously we're not going to be using that anymore. So you take the brass insert and you stick it in the link mount, and it's actually threaded, but it's just a little touch that I'm actually really impressed with. So we will go ahead and get everything installed. And there are no instructions provided. However, if you've ever put one of these together, it is pretty straightforward. I don't think it'll be too hard. All the screws provided are the same length. That makes it easy, because you can now just, pick one up and throw it on. You don't have to worry about it. I'd say the hardest part about this whole process is just how fiddly it is. And if you've worked on these before, it's really small parts. Okay, but again, everything seems to be going together really smooth. Very fiddly parts, but I'm trying to get the front upper link through the link mount into the brass insert. There we go. There's the front link. Now already I'm starting to notice a problem. There's quite a bit of rubbing. So you can see the bottom links are able to move freely, but the top links, I can stick them wherever I want, and that's because the rod ends are actually rubbing against the servo mount. So I'm not happy about that. So that's something that's good to know. I do not plan on keeping this stock servo mount for very long, but I think, you know, because of the amount of resistance, it's actually pretty significant. I am gonna have to do something. So we're gonna turn the cameras back off, and we are gonna go ahead and grind that plastic back a little bit, I guess. Just like that, the axles are done. Apart from the little bit of binding here on the upper front links, rear links are perfect. The rest of the links are perfect. I also did the steering links. And there's nothing I like more than seeing a pair of shiny stainless steel links. Now that that's done, we are going to dig into the chassis. We do have, obviously, the chassis rails. We have some aluminum braces with the associated hardware, but we have a few plates in there for mounting stuff. So we'll start with the transmission. You know, I'm sure I'm not the only one, but like in my opinion, this is what holds a chassis together. Go ahead and line those holes up. So run some screws in there. So we got one side on. We'll go ahead and throw on the other side. With the skid plate mounted, we'll go ahead and get the front axle mounted. And I believe this should be pretty straightforward. We'll go ahead, I guess, and start with the lower links. And this is, again, just like how we took it off. Still very fiddly. All right, so we have it back together. Honestly, it goes together really easily. The only thing that I did, because I'm an idiot, is I put the lower links in the skid plate where the upper links go, and it was messing with my wheelbase. Nothing was lining up. I couldn't figure it out until I realized what I had done. Don't be like me. Do it correctly. Otherwise, I didn't have any issues putting this together except for one problem. I did not like where the rear shocks mount. I felt like they were too vertical, and what it ended up doing was really kicking the rear of the chassis up pretty high. So I did some really quick measurements and some really quick 3D modeling and some really quick 3D printing, and I printed off these new shock towers for the rear, which allow the rear shocks to mount more at like a 45-ish degree angle, which is where I'm happy with the shocks. So that's something to be aware of. If you are putting this together and you're looking for more of an LCG type setup, which I was, that may be an issue. One way around this, you could probably get the C10 or JLU version of this chassis, because it will be shorter, because it is a shorter vehicle overall, and that may line up perfectly if you are using the longer rear links of the Gladiator. But I didn't want to have to order another chassis, so I just printed these off really quick. I will make the file available on Thingiverse. It was like a 15-minute print for both of these shock towers, so if that's something you're going to want to do, I'll put a link down in the bottom. Feel free to go over there. It'll be a free file. You can download it. All that's really left to do is mount the hinge for the rear body, the electronics, and get the tires back on. And then we'll bring it out to the rocks and drive it again and see if it makes any difference. Here we are out on the location. Absolutely love this spot. A bit of a warm one today. It's nice to get a little bit of this ocean breeze. I don't remember exactly where I was trying to get up here. And it was more or less this area. Alright, that's pretty simple. Let's see if we can make it any more complicated. I know if we go a little bit further over here, a little bit steeper. Yeah, see, this is what I'm expecting without any additional weight added. I'm curious to see if we'll notice any real difference. Alright, a little bit of wheel speed, we got up and over that. I expect without any additional weight, you know, in terms of brass or anything being added. I don't know how much of a performance gain we'll get. But so far it definitely seems to be a little bit more well behaved. So I think the benefit of this chassis is offering more options over stock in terms of suspension mounting and mounting the electronics and everything. The stainless steel links will certainly add a little bit of weight down low, but until we get some brass added, I just don't know if it's quite enough. Oh, all right. Spoke a little too soon. All right, we're gonna give that a shot because it may just have a chance. it a little further up. About right there. Oh, all right, same climb, different angle. It's almost there. Just a little, I think all it needs is just a little bit of weight and it would get it no problem. But as it stands, it's just a little, the center of gravity is just a little bit too high. And that's it right there. Maybe if I turn a little sooner, it's not quite so off camera. Bump it. Yeah, there we go. This one feels like a bit of a pipe dream, but we're going to give it a shot because who knows. It is fairly steep. Yeah, it's about what I expected. So this is a pretty steep, you know, up till about this point, it's not too bad. But then once we cross over here, oh, no, there we go. A little bit of wheel speed. It's up and over. All right. I'm actually, I'm pretty impressed there. I didn't think the tires would have the traction. Let's see, coming down. Does it feel pretty, yeah, you know, it feels pretty planted, pretty stable. One thing I'm noticing, and I don't know if it's because of the angle of the shocks now, but one thing I'm noticing is the rear end feels considerably less bouncy than it did before. You know, in stock setup, anytime it would get stuck, the rear end would just sit and bounce. A little bit of it there, but it's not nearly as bad as it was before, so I don't know if it's just because the shocks are a little bit more laid down now. But honestly, it's a huge improvement. Overall, I'd say, yeah, you know, it feels a lot more predictable, I'd say. And I don't know if it's just because the chassis is a little bit more stiff. I don't know if it's because the center of gravity is a little bit lower, the shock angles are a little bit different, the lower weight of those stainless steel links may be contributing a little bit, but it feels a little bit more planted, it feels a little bit more stable. And for me, I think that may be the biggest improvement of this chassis is just in feeling a lot more stable. It feels now that the really big drawback is the traction of the tires. There just is not enough traction there for what I want to do. Whereas before it felt like overall it needed a little bit of help. But now the truck feels, and who knows, maybe it's just placebo effect, maybe it's because I'm looking for improvements. But honestly, the truck feels a lot more stable, a lot more planted. It's just the traction that is really struggling. Now I need to be careful here because there's a giant puddle of seawater right next to me. Nice and slow and try to crawl my way to the top. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I'm honestly for $18 for the chassis and then another $20 or so in links. I think this is a very worthy upgrade. All right, here we are back in the back at the bench. My final thoughts: I'm actually really impressed with this chassis. It ended up doing a lot more than I thought it would. The bigger thing, like I mentioned out on the rocks, it's just a lot more predictable. Now it feels like I can sit there and I can really kind of try and crawl something, whereas before it really felt like it just would sit there and bounce and spin and not really do anything. For the off-camber stuff, I don't know if I noticed too much of a difference, honestly. With the stainless steel links, I had hoped that it would add a little bit more weight down low. Ultimately, I don't think it had as much of an impact as I had hoped. However, with just these 3 mods that I've done, it feels so much like a different truck already. It really feels, like I said earlier, that all it needs is a little bit of weight and a tire change, and it would be nearly unstoppable. So I'm really, really looking forward to what this will be capable of. I think it really will be a well-performing vehicle. Now, one thing I wanted to do, and I meant to mention this at the beginning of the video, was keep a total cost counter going for the life of this project. I'll put the numbers here up on the side. The steering link was $9.99, the links were $17.99, and the chassis was $18.99. So all total, we have just shy of $46 or so into upgrades so far. The other thing I want to do is take my little kitchen scale here and weigh this and compare it to the stock weight. Unfortunately, I did not weigh this before starting this video, but here is the stock weight taken right from the Axial website. Now it is showing up as 242 grams. This is without the battery included. If we take the battery and add that on, it comes to 266. So we are seeing a little bit of a decrease in the weight, which is, in my opinion, always a good thing. But more importantly, we're seeing better performance at a decreased weight. So the final verdict, after everything's been said and done, I feel like I've been dragging this out far enough. Is this a worthy upgrade? Absolutely. I don't feel like the cost is that expensive for the level of performance you get out of this. As I mentioned before, adding these 3 upgrades and then some brass weights and some better tires, you would have a very capable rig for not a lot of money or effort. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is going to be an ongoing series. I promise that when we are done, this is going to look very different. I have some ideas in mind. Stay tuned, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I hope you like this video. If you have any suggestions for what upgrades you would like to see, feel free to comment below. And as always, we'll see you in the next video.